Hey, hockey fans. Welcome to the Idiots Talk Sports podcast number 2. I'm your host, Keegan. I'm joined by Eric, and we are coming off of what is maybe the craziest game of hockey either one of us has ever seen, Stanley Cup final or not, in which the Vegas Golden Knights defeat the Washington Capitals 6-4, 5-4 with an empty netter. And Eric, let's start it off with the first period. What'd you think of all that action right away?
Well, again, like you had said, it was just a great game to watch. A lot of fun. So many, lead changes, but we'll go ahead and get into that in a little bit. Yeah, that first period, though, Vegas comes out. They're skating hard. They're making Washington look flat out there. The first 10 minutes or so, it was all Vegas, in my opinion.
Exactly that, and I think Washington turned over the puck so many times in the first 10 minutes and really looked flat against a Vegas team that was super hungry. Vegas looked great out there. I mean, capitalized on every opportunity they had bright and early, and made Washington pay on a Colin Miller goal, on a power play shot right away in the first period, and it kind of looked like Vegas. I mean, the energy in that building, the crowd was so loud, tons of celebrities there. Little John, by the way, which we'll maybe get into his interview a little bit later. Very cool to see Little John, a huge fan of hockey, but actually knew a lot about the sport, so that was pretty cool to see. But a back and forth game.
Well, yeah, and this is the common theme with Vegas. They start out hot, especially in their game ones. I mean, every game really, but they were coming out on fire, like you had said. They were making Washington create so many turnovers, in the neutral zone, and it just looked like Washington did not have an answer those first 10 minutes. Go.
And so Brett Connolly scores the equalizer in the first period there, and then Nick Backstrom set up, I believe, from TJ Oshie. TJ Oshie was definitely the star for Washington tonight or yesterday. He had a fantastic game, and really was kind of everywhere. You could kind of see that Washington second line. They were all over the ice last night, and after it's 2-1 Washington, I mean, it starts to take a little bit of a different turn there. And in this game, it seemed like we could tell when the goal was coming. The momentum was building for either team, and you really knew something was going to happen before each and every one of the goals, really.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, and with the Connolly goal and the Backstrom goal, those goals came, 45 seconds apart.
Quick goals, quick strikes.
It was a quick little 1-2, and then after that, Washington, actually, with those two goals, you see Washington skating harder. They're equalizing, Vegas's speed, and you really see it, with the Connolly goal and then with that Backstrom goal. They're making quick passes, they're skating hard, and that's how you got to play Vegas. You're not going to beat that team if you're not skating as hard as as they are. It's not going to happen.
That's right, and I think what was funny here is in the first period, it was really interesting to see Ryan Reeves line up on the faceoff dot with Lars Eller and win the draw.
Yeah, probably the biggest faceoff win of Ryan Reeves' career. Right there.
It was a great game for Reeves too, and I think they really Vegas line 1 and Vegas line 4 had tremendous games. And I think Ryan Reeves with the big goal a little bit later on, which we'll get to. I mean, that guy is playing tremendous hockey right now, coming up huge for his club, and that's what you need. You need those guys like Ryan Reeves contributing, even when maybe you don't expect them.
Sure. Yeah, you have to have that support from guys like you said you don't expect to get it from. That's how you're going to win playoff series and the finals.
And in period 2 here, we've got the momentum shifts in this game more than I've seen in a long time. You'll get Washington with a minute of zone pressure, Vegas with 2 minutes of zone pressure, and continually over and over again putting it on Washington in terms of grabbing those pucks out of the neutral zone, grabbing them in the defensive zone, and just quick striking. And I think Holtby had to make a few huge saves in the second period, and that one in particular where he bats it out of off the goal line, really.
Yeah, and looking at that replay, that puck was going in the net. It's hard to see. until you see that replay, it's tough to tell. When you see that and just what a saving, what a save. You're saving a goal there.
What else I kind of liked about this game is, while there could have been a few more calls on both sides of the puck, the refs were kind of leaving it to the players this game, and we'll get to that Tom Wilson hit, here in the third period. It was late, unfortunately, and I don't think it matters how late a late hit is. I think there's something to be said about admiring your pass in hockey. My coach always told me, don't admire your pass. Keep your head up. Marchessault, let's go with that puck. And Tom Wills, the size difference.
Well, yeah, it's not like it was a high hit or anything. I think it was a little bit blindsided hit, a little bit late, and Tom Wilson's double the size.
Easily. Tom Wilson's 6'4" and 220 pounds, and it's for a guy like Marchessault, you're not expecting that hit, and just sent him flying. And I think Marchessault was okay, and fortunately he returned to the game, and that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a skill player like Jonathan Marchessault go out. It doesn't matter who you're rooting for. That's always kind of an unfortunate part about the sport, but fortunately he's okay. He returns a little bit later, and Wilson is penalized on the play. Every ref on the ice missed that, which kind of blew me away, and they had to talk about it. And very rarely do you see a retroactive penalty where they say, hey, we missed that one, but we're going to watch the replay. You kind of wish you had those at all times,
Well, and what surprised me was that it ended up being a 4-on-4.
David Perron hops off the bench and hits Alex Ovechkin as the sixth man. And, I'm not sure of the legality of that. I know too many men is a penalty, but you can't do that. That's obviously against the rules there. And kind of a foolish play by Perron. You have an opportunity there for your team to really take control of the game there. And, I think no matter what, this would have been a back and forth, slugfest all night, really. And you watch the way the Capitals answer, Vegas answers. And I think there was only a one-goal lead, I suppose, up by two once, really. Literally one time on the empty net goal. Every other kind of change was tie, go up by one, tie, go up by one. It was just an absolutely crazy night, and a lot of new eyes on the game, which was good too. With all the celebrities over there in Vegas, it was definitely an important night for the sport.
Oh, it was great to see. Anytime you can bring celebrities in and you have that kind of fan base that Vegas has, and it's growing and growing. It's just a great thing to see. More eyes on the sport is always it's an awesome thing,
And I think for both sides of on the puck here, if you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan, you should be excited. That's a Game 1 victory. Your team looked good. They were able to swing with one of the best offenses in the league. And I don't think Vegas has anything to worry about, and I also don't think Washington has anything to worry about. It's one game. I think this Capitals team can come out and play any different way. And they tried something last night, and I wouldn't be surprised if Game 2 was a 2-1 game. I really wouldn't. And I also wouldn't be surprised if it was another 10-goal game like we had there last night.
Yeah, it's just so tough to say because at any time, these goalies could pitch a shutout. You got Fleury and Holtby, and if they get hot, good luck scoring on them. I don't care how many shots you're firing. It's going to be tough.
Seriously, and there's something to be said about the goaltending last night. It almost seemed at times as though the goalies were just victims of the speed of the play. Washington's playing fast, Vegas is playing fast, and these guys are they're not making mistakes. And you really didn't see. I think Fleury made a huge save there at the end of the game, and Holtby made a huge save. I think both goalies had one big one, which is rare in the playoffs. Usually it's 3, 4, 5, 6 big saves.
Well, and something that I had noticed, with Vegas last night was, with their speed, it's kind of obvious, but it gives them so much time with the puck to make the right play. They have so much space, they have so much time, and even though Washington was, matching that speed and the momentum, it still seemed like Vegas had more time to make decisions with the puck, in my opinion, than Washington did.
I'd agree. It's amazing to see this Vegas team, and we talked a little bit in the first podcast about penalties, and I'm not sure how much of a factor that's going to be, and I like that. I don't want the refs calling. You want the players to be safe, but I don't want them calling a two-handed slash on the stick. I don't want them calling a little scrum on the boards. I want them to let these guys play, and it looks like that's what we're going to have. And if we have 3 more 10-goal games or 5 more 10-goal, this will be buckle up. It is exactly right. This could be the most explosive, most violent Stanley Cup final we've ever had, and I really believe that like you said about the new eyes on the sport. It's incredible for the sport of hockey. I don't care who you're a fan of. If you're a fan of the Penguins or the Vancouver Canucks, you always want to see the sport grow, and you always want to see the celebrities attending and people getting behind the teams and going out to these games and enjoying them. And Vegas looks like the Nashville of last year right now.
Well, and again, for having new eyes in the sport, you couldn't have asked for a better game one. It's super exciting.
That's the point. It's like if it would have been a 1-0 game, that's a tough sell for game 2 for a lot of people. So it reminded me a lot of, and we're fight fans here. The Forrest Griffin. Stephen Bonner first fight. Guys were calling, their friends saying, you got to tune into this.
Well, look at how much that fight did for the UFC.
Exactly. And, you can only hope that that this game could potentially have done something like that for hockey. And just for people tuning in and watching hockey at its best time of the year, which is obviously right now. And let's talk about that Capitals pressure the last 5 minutes of the game. And how big Fleury was coming up for Vegas.
Well, and leading up to that, again, throughout the second and third period, just back and forth, lead changes. That Ryan Reeves goal, what a shot by Ryan Reeves there.
Unreal. Far down.
Ryan Reeves may have just had the game of his life last night. I know we touched on that a little bit earlier, but, what an unsung hero that guy was. We'll see if he keeps that going. But, yeah, towards the end there, those last 5-6 minutes of the game, Washington definitely took control. Vegas looked a little flat, which we haven't seen from Vegas. Obviously, Washington was desperate to get the game tied up, and it looked like they were going to.
There's a feeling that I had in watching the game. It certainly looked like they were going to do something and they were going to tie it, but you just know that Vegas isn't going to let that goal in. With 8 minutes left, up by 1, Fleury is not going to let that goal in. He is so competitive, such an amazing goalie, and no matter who you're a fan of, you got to be a fan of that guy. I don't know how much fun he was having last night because letting in 4 goals was never fun for me, but they took home the victory. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, it does not matter what your save percentage is. It does not matter what your goals against is. It matters whether you win or lose.
Right. Nobody's going to remember that he let in that many goals. They're going to remember that he won the game.
Absolutely. And, to see that Washington pressure for this is why I think if you're a Capitals fan, you shouldn't worry. To watch what the Capitals did the last really 5 minutes of the game was pretty scary. It looked like Vegas wasn't there anymore. And Vegas is playing defense, mind you, but it really, there was an air about it, as if the Capitals, if they were capable, were going to score there. But Fleury came up huge, obviously, and I think they added the empty netter with like 4 seconds left. There's almost no time left, and which is, I've noticed this year, it seems like the empty net pull is not as effective as maybe as it used to be for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and I think, just overall, teams are getting quicker. They're making faster plays, they're skating faster, and, to go back on the end there when Washington had all that pressure, there was, Fleury almost got scored on there right at the end. They passed it over. I forget who it was, but it was a, cross crease pass right in the middle, and the shot got fanned on an open net. And right there could have tied the game up. Again, it didn't. But
it's really this is the game that we love. This is the Stanley Cup Final. It's a game of inches, and there's no guarantees out there. And when you fan on a pass like that, I wonder how good a sleep that guy gets. And I have to say, in watching some of the post game interviews, Ovechkin's got a big old cold sore on his lip, and I wonder if the stress has maybe got to this guy. He didn't look good last night out there. I mean, obviously you say something about Vegas and just shutting them down, but I wonder if the grade eight's got a little untimely cold here.
And he's going to bounce back. I think it's just a little game one jitters. I'm sure most of the players out there had him. I think Alex Ovechkin's going to be just fine.
I believe that, and I think what's really cool about this is it seems like, and I'm sure there's a lot of there's a lot of veterans out there, obviously, but there is a lot of brand new guys to the Cup final. There's a lot of guys who have never seen the Cup final who are in it now, and it's almost like these two teams are playing that way, or at least they did last night. I mean, seeing 10 goals in a Cup final game, that does not happen. I mean, it's they're usually tightly checked games. And these are games that coaches hate, by the way. Coaches do not like these kinds of games. And it's kind of like they've just put the kitchen sink tune in and just let them go out there and play.
Now, in your opinion, Keegan, do you think, if you had to say, do you think we're going to keep seeing these high-scoring games? I know it's really tough to predict. Nobody knows for sure. But do you think there's going to be some coaching adjustments, some, matchup adjustments that are going to lead to lower scoring games, or do you think it's going to continue to be these 8, 9, 10 goal games?
I think you'd be silly to think that it's going to stay like this. I think both of the coaches are going to go back and have a nice hard look at how their teams played, and it seems more reasonable that we're going to get some lower scoring games, but I tell you what, it would be fantastic for the sport if we had a bunch more like this. I mean, back and forth, and you always want to see that Game 7. And I mean, could you imagine if we had 100 goals scored in a Cup final in 7 games? I mean, that's obviously far-fetched and not going to happen. I mean, I really think that they are going to check a little tighter this next game, and both Holtby and Fleury have to be better. Not that they weren't good. But, some of those plays, you got to be a little tighter on your post. Fleury had one, kind of fluky goal there, just kind of kicking it in on himself. And you've got to think that goals like that aren't going to go in all playoffs long, and that's just the case. They're just not.
Well, and going back to that goal, Fleury made the stop. He had it and just trying to, he's in the butterfly and trying to get back into his position as he was, going backward. Just happened to
he just pulled it back into himself, and stuff like that's not going to keep happening, and these guys are all so good out there. The talent level, the skill level is so high that those little mistake plays aren't going to happen. We're going to see what I noticed Washington had a lot of success with was the deflections. Brett Connolly's deflection goal. Fleury is so good. If you let him see that puck, he's going to make the save. It's so hard to beat these goalies clean. I think, one of the goals for Vegas was like a wraparound. That William Karlsson goal, he just powered it in there. And you've got to think that Holtby's going to make saves on goals like that. But, how exciting is it that we've got Game 2 in Vegas? And, I have to touch on it again. Vegas seems crazy right now. I'd give anything except for $1,000 for the price of a ticket to go watch that game. And I just think it seems like a real show they're putting on. Let's talk about that pregame ceremony there. What'd you think of it?
I was entertained. And,
of course.
It's just great to see. Anytime they can bring even more entertainment into the game and more fans into the game, again, it's never a bad thing. And I forget who said it, but one of the commentators was saying that Vegas, that's the loudest building that he's been in all playoffs long.
It seems, and which is crazy, we've seen Winnipeg and Nashville play, and it seems to me like it's not, and I haven't been there. It seems small. It seems like the top is not as maybe spread out. It seems like a very cozy building, if that makes any sense. I'm sure it's not, and it's huge, and I just have no idea what I'm talking about, but. The pregame ceremony there kind of reminds me of those medieval dinners. I think you were telling me about, or Lauren was something about St. Louis. I don't remember what you guys called it, but like a medieval dinner where they serve you that plate of shepherd's pie and you just have to sit through this show. But the fans seem to like it. and it does nothing for the players. And they've rattled on about that on all these sports broadcasts. The players don't see that stuff, but it's the fans. And when you go in there and the fans are just losing their minds, that's got to energize the players, and it obviously did.
And do you think that gives, the Vegas Golden Knights, I know you said, it doesn't really affect the players, but do you think just having that noise level and that energy, do you think that does something for their skating right off the bat?
It has to, and I think home ice comes with the home ice advantage in terms of line changes. The coach can select which matchup he wants all night, and your crowd, screaming for you. But at the same time, I wonder as a player, as an opposing player, as an away player, if you can't take a hold of that as well. Crowd noise is crowd noise, and if they're chanting your name, maybe you can channel that, and like a goalie would in Nashville. Maybe you channel that and say, hey man, they're rooting for me out here. But it obviously seemed to do something for the Vegas Golden Knights, and it seems to have done something for them all season long, because they've just been an incredible home team. Not only an incredible hockey club, but an incredible home team. And you've got to think Washington's got to take one of these on the road here.
Well, and going back to the fan base real quick, what about how many people were standing outside that arena cheering on the Vegas Golden Knights?
That blew me away. I think the first images that I saw this postseason were in Winnipeg, and you expect that. It's like, okay, Winnipeg Jets. Of course the street's going to be absolutely full of people, but you see that picture of outside the T-Mobile.
It looked like half of Vegas was there.
Seriously, or more. How many people live in Vegas? You know what I mean? It kind of blows me away. When you think of Vegas, you think of transplants and tourists, and nobody's living there, but people live there, right? And a ton of people are coming out and got behind this team, and I thought it's Vegas has such an amazing story this year with the tragedy that happened there, obviously, and they retired the number 58 as a result of the victims there. And I think after that, and after what Vegas brought to that team, they've really come up and done something there. And the fans have really got behind that team. And it's great to see because, probably 200 miles away or a little more than that in Arizona, it really hasn't caught on. And,
Sure.
and they're just, hockey in the desert, I think a lot of people going into this were thinking there's no way it's going to work. But my goodness. And you really want to see it move on after this season. Let's say they lose to Washington in 5 games, worst case scenario. Washington comes back and wins all the games. Do the Vegas fans show up next year?
I would say they do. I think this is going to have a lasting effect, not only in Vegas, but on the game of hockey. And, let's get into, just real quick, the couple of unsung heroes from Game 1.
Absolutely. I think Kuznetsov in the game looked to be skating on a different level than everybody out there. Every time this guy had the puck, it really seemed as though he was a head and shoulders above those guys, making the cleaner, crisper plays. It didn't translate to any goals, but obviously when they're shutting down that top line with their top line, it is tough to get a lot of room out there. And Kuznetsov had a lot more room than he should have had. That's for sure. And I think for Vegas, you have to, again, talk about Ryan Reeves. This guy is so strong. And it reflects in how he manhandled John Carlson, which, in looking back at the play, you don't want to think it's a penalty, and I don't think it's a penalty. I think John Carlson went down a little soft, but then again, Ryan Reeves is just an absolute monster.
Well, they're right there in the slot. You have to find a way to create space. And,
Yes.
Ryan Reeves is a big, strong guy. Give him a little cross check to the back. I agree with you. I don't think it should have been called, and it wasn't, which is a good thing. And just the way he buried that, Ryan Reeves on the Vegas side is, my hero. And then I would say on Washington, it's got to be TJ Oshie.
For sure.
The passes that guy was making, Oshie, you'll never see that guy not skate. He is always bringing so much energy, to that team and every team he's played on. And just his awareness and finding that pass, that pass he made over to John Carlson, that was awesome.
You've said to me, and I remember when the Capitals picked him up a few years back. You said to me, TJ Oshie is the most talented grinder in the NHL, and I think that's a power forward or two-way forward or whatever you want to call him. The guy has moves, passes, shots.
He does it all.
He does it all. He can hit. He lays the body, and you watch, somebody tried to line him up last night. I don't remember who it was, but somebody tried to line him up and just got dealt with. I mean, TJ Oshie is a strong boy, and it's tough to get him off his skates. And that pass he made to John Carlson was,
Beauty.
a beauty, otherworldly, really. And you want to see all these guys coming together and doing it again for Game 2 here. So we're looking forward to it. It'll be Wednesday night. I think I said NBC Sports last time around. I believe it's on NBC again, the big network here, trying to get all those eyes on the game. And we can only hope that that Game 2 is half as exciting as Game 1. So with that said, we're here at the 25-minute mark, and we want to thank anybody and everybody for listening to this episode of Idiots Talk Sports. I'm Keegan, joined by Eric once again, and everybody have a great day. Thanks.